It's 2 a.m. and you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, completely still. The room is quiet, your body is exhausted. But your brain? Your brain is in a board meeting. It's replaying something you said 3 days ago. It's rehearsing a conversation that might never happen. It's running through every possible outcome of a decision you don't even have to make until next week. And the worst part? You can't find the off switch. You never could. You know what's strange about that? The people who lie awake like this, the ones whose minds refuse to clock out, are often some of the most perceptive, emotionally tuned-in humans in any room. Not in spite of the late nights, because of what lives inside them. Here's what nobody tells you about thinking too much. It's not a character flaw. It's not anxiety in the clinical broken sense. It is at its core an exceptionally active mind that never got the signal that the danger had passed. And once you understand that, really understand it, something shifts. Let's start with what's actually happening inside the brain. Psychologists have a term for this pattern: maladaptive rumination. It sounds clinical, but what it means is surprisingly human. The mind keeps returning to the same thought loops, circling uncertainty, revisiting the past, preloading futures that haven't arrived yet. Research from Yale and the University of Michigan has consistently found that people who ruminate aren't doing so out of weakness. In many cases, they're doing it because their brain is wired for exceptional pattern recognition. It's always scanning, always processing, always searching for meaning in the noise. The issue isn't intelligence, it's that the system has no reliable off signal. Neurologically, this comes down to two key players. The first is the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, self-reflection, and analysis. In people who overthink, this region tends to stay highly active even during rest, even when there's nothing urgent happening, even when the day is over and the lights are off. The second is the default mode network, the brain's internal background processor. When you're not focused on a task, this system kicks in, generating internal monologue, narrative, memory retrieval. For overthinkers, these two systems work overtime together. The result is a mind that feels permanently online, always auditing, always drafting responses to conversations that haven't happened yet. But here's where it gets interesting. This pattern almost never starts in adulthood. For a significant number of overthinkers, it begins much earlier, in childhood or early adolescence, often in environments where outcomes felt unpredictable. Maybe moods at home shifted without warning. Maybe mistakes carried consequences that felt too large for the situation. The young brain, in its remarkable intelligence, developed a logical response. Think ahead. Anticipate everything. If you can see what's coming, maybe you can get ahead of it. Maybe you can protect yourself. Overthinking, understood this way, isn't a malfunction. It's an adaptation. A highly alert nervous system doing precisely what it was built to do. Think about the last time you couldn't stop running something through your head. That wasn't weakness. That was your brain trying, in the only way it knew how, to keep you safe. Now, not all overthinking looks the same. Psychologists generally identify two distinct patterns, and most overthinkers will recognize themselves somewhere in both. The first is called reflective rumination. This is when the mind turns inward to understand itself, to process emotions, make sense of experiences, build self-awareness. When it's balanced, this version is genuinely a strength. It's associated with higher emotional intelligence, greater cognitive empathy, and a deeper understanding of other people's inner worlds. The second is brooding rumination. This is the more exhausting version. Passive, circular, distressing, dwelling on problems without movement toward resolution. This is where overthinking starts taking things from you. Sleep quality, decision-making clarity, the ease of social interaction. Because every conversation gets analyzed long after it ends. Here's the twist most people never see coming. The majority of overthinkers don't live in one type. They oscillate between both. Sometimes within the same hour, a genuine moment of self-reflection slides, almost invisibly into a spiral. And because the thinking feels purposeful, because the brain is actively engaged, generating ideas, constructing arguments, it can be genuinely difficult to notice when you've crossed from processing into looping. Cognitive psychologists call this the illusion of mental progress. The mind feels like it's solving something. It feels productive, but it's not moving forward. It's just running. And this is where dopamine enters the picture. Your brain releases small amounts of dopamine during problem solving, even imagined problem solving. So when an overthinker runs through a scenario, analyzing every angle, building mental contingencies, the brain is being partially rewarded just for the activity, not for arriving anywhere, just for thinking. This is why telling someone to simply stop thinking about it is, neurologically speaking, almost meaningless. The brain has a chemical incentive to keep the loop running. Which type are you? The one who turns inward to understand, or the one who turns inward and gets lost? Drop it in the comments. And here's what the research says about what this pattern actually reveals. A 2013 study published in Psychological Science found that people who reported higher levels of rumination also scored significantly higher on measures of cognitive empathy, the ability to understand and anticipate how other people think and feel. They're more sensitive to social nuance, more attuned to how words land, more aware of the unspoken emotional texture in a room. The same mental engine that makes nights exhausting is also what makes these people remarkably perceptive. It's not a flaw with no upside, it's a Ferrari engine with bicycle brakes. The goal was never to get a smaller engine. It was always to build better brakes. But perception without resolution is its own kind of weight. And that's the tension overthinkers carry. They notice everything. They feel the full spectrum of possibilities, and yet the more they think, the further clarity drifts. Because here's the quiet truth that psychology keeps arriving at. The mind cannot think its way out of every problem. Some things have to be felt, decided, or released, not solved. Let me ask you something. How many nights have you lain there, completely still, while your brain argued with a version of someone who wasn't even in the room? How many hours have gone to conversations that happened years ago with people who may not even remember them? You are not unusual for this. You are not broken. You are carrying a very old way of surviving in a world that once gave your nervous system every reason to stay alert. Therapists who work with chronic overthinkers often focus not on stopping the thoughts, but on changing the relationship to them. Acceptance and commitment therapy introduces a concept called cognitive diffusion, the practice of observing a thought without fusing with it, without being pulled in. Instead of "this situation is dangerous and I need to figure it out," the shift becomes "my brain is generating a concern right now." One pulls you under. The other gives you just enough distance to breathe. It's subtle, but it's real. What all of this points toward is something that matters far beyond any single sleepless night. Overthinking is not instability. It is not evidence of something broken inside you. It is an exceptionally active mind that learned, in a world that once felt uncertain, to never stop scanning. The challenge was never to silence it completely. The challenge is to teach it, gently, patiently, over time, that it is finally safe enough to rest, that the board meeting can end, that the room is quiet for a reason. And maybe that's the most human part of all of this. We all carry cognitive patterns shaped by experiences we didn't choose. Understanding them doesn't erase them, but it does change how much power they hold. And sometimes, that understanding is exactly where the quiet begins. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're just wired for depth, in a world that never slowed down long enough to appreciate it. If this resonated with you, please subscribe. There's more to explore about how your mind really works. I'll see you in the next one.